Hello, this is Ben, and I wanted to come to you with the last video of the year, I guess, and just another video. And today's video is about what could happen. And so to set it up, I just want to talk about what happened today, and then it kind of what it made me think about what could happen. Well, this week has been kind of crazy for me because I had problems with my car, and it was like, had a problem with my car, saw what I need to do to fix it, not a big job, I'm gonna do this little thing, and then you fix that thing, and then you find out, oh, there's like another problem that you didn't think about, or a new problem arose with, related to the thing, and it like leads to another problem. And so then you're like, you don't know what to do about that problem, and then you come up with some kind of basically, oh man, I just dominated that problem, I just figured out that problem, brilliant solution, got that problem fixed. And then like another problem arises. So then it's like you gotta have another brilliant solution, and then another problem, and then another brilliant solution. It's like, how many brilliant solutions can I come up with? I'm gonna run out. You know what I mean? And it was like, all of a sudden, you're out here, and it's like, man, I had this major problem, and it looked like the thing was gonna be kaputski. It wasn't gonna be worth it. And then all of a sudden, I came up with another solution. I was like, oh man, I can't believe and then I come up with this point, and then this thing's frustrating, and so. Then all of a sudden my mom called, and she's had this major problem with her house. And she was like, we have to fix this today. And I was like, I have so many other major problems, like, dude, seriously. And so like, my point to you is, we need to slow down and think about all the things that could go wrong in this life. We need to think about how many things actually could go wrong. A lot of things could go wrong. When the first white explorers from Spain came to land at about Tampa Bay, and they went up through Florida into Georgia on the banks of the Mississippi, they is the explorers under DeSoto. Now DeSoto died on the banks of the Mississippi, but the rest of the crew made it back, and they took records about how many villages they counted, estimates of the population. About 60 years later, the first French trappers came up, I think, the Mississippi, making their money. And they counted about 1/10 the native villages that were there before. We now know that smallpox was to blame, and that about 90% of the natives died. So if you go to Macon, Georgia, or Eatonton, Georgia, you'll find Indian remains, things that the Native Americans built here. Those were not built by the local tribes to Georgia, like the Cherokee, or I don't know, some of the other ones. Is it Chippewa? I don't know. But those tribes were what formed after like everybody died, and the natives that were here when the white man finally came and settled said, we don't know who built that stuff, we don't know what was here, we don't know about those people. And it wasn't like it was that long ago so much as they all died. So think about it, when 90% of the people have smallpox and are dying, when that many people are sick and dying, like, if you are in a position where literally a cup of water would save your life, there's no one to bring it to you because everyone else needs one. So I mean, think about, like, just slow down and think about how many things could go wrong. And it becomes obvious real fast for those of us who believe in God to say, God is the only thing, really that I can, really count on. Without God looking out for me, I couldn't make it. And, that's the first fundamental point is, you never have security any other way, and that's just the truth, because so many things could go wrong. You cannot account for it all. Now, I want to be fair, and I want to slow down and think about this from an atheist perspective. From an atheist perspective, you could say, well, looking at the past, odds are it doesn't always go all that bad. Life tends to proceed kind of normal. People don't have 100 different things go wrong all at the same time. Every traffic light doesn't malfunction at the same time. Some malfunction, you don't have a million, so for example, I had a friend and he's just a really bad driver and he's just a little bit mentally handicapped, and it's just like, could you imagine if there was some factory? Another friend of mine used to like to imagine like a factory that's just pumping that guy out and putting them in cars and putting them on the road, like some kind of. He pretended it was like a Mickey Mouse and Fantasia is just like ruining the world. You could just ruin the world by just pumping out these mildly mentally handicapped people and putting them in little small pickup trucks and just putting them out on the road. And like he drove a S10. But like, the point is, like, a lot of stuff could go wrong. We're not really in control. But for the most part, from an atheist perspective, they're probably not gonna, just looking at the past, things tend to kind of proceed as normal. Right. So, if we're honest about the atheist perspective, I think atheists can go through life saying things are probably going to be okay. They don't really know. They don't really have that confidence. They don't have that God they can trust in. They can't say that no matter what happens, I know God meant for it to happen and there's a plan for me in this. They can't ever say that because, unless they decide to not be atheists anymore. But what they can say is things tend to proceed as normal. Now, this is where the atheist runs into a problem. There are those times and there are those situations where things don't proceed as normal. So sometimes really, really bad things do happen. And so as an atheist, you begin to say to yourself, what should I do in those situations? What should I do with, a situation where, like, for example, Nazi Germany. Before Nazi Germany was known as the most evil empire ever, it was just really a new political party that was there to save a country that had fallen apart. This country had fallen into a horrible depression, and what they did was they took away people's basic freedoms and sort of told everyone what to do and killed off a lot of people that they saw as just, like the elderly. They just killed off the elderly. And a depression happened. People were starving to death. It was widespread problems. The economy was falling apart. Everything was falling apart. The infrastructure, the roads, everything. Well, they started killing off people that were unproductive. It's one little thing they did to improve their economic status. So like anyone elderly in a nursing home who's not really productive. Okay, so from an atheist perspective, like, when everything does go wrong, you got to ask yourself, what are you willing to do to look out for yourself and society and everyone? What are you willing to do? That's utilitarianism. Now, the other problem is the status quo problem, because not only is there a utilitarian problem to maintain the status quo the way things are, in other words, what if everything goes wrong? We got to maintain the status quo. But then there's a further utilitarian problem about what if we could make things better? So maybe things are just normal right now, but if we do kill off everyone who's elderly and in a nursing home, even though we don't have any depressions or any horrible reasons to do so, well then society would be, everyone would be wealthier financially and we'd have a stronger economy, blah, blah, blah. Then we'd have a new status quo. That would be, if that continued on for centuries or something, then it would just become normal just to kill off everyone who was elderly. Social Security, wouldn't be worried about that going bankrupt because it wouldn't be a thing. So, here's the question. From an atheist perspective, how do you deal with what this video is really about? It's just Murphy's Law. The oh no factor. Anything that can go wrong will. You and I are not in control. We are never in control in this life. And that is the fundamental point. There is more that could happen than you can handle. There are so many things that could just go wrong, and there's no reason they can't go wrong. You're just lucky that they don't. And you totally couldn't handle it. And it's a reality, and sometimes we need those reminders. I guess I've been getting one this week. You need that reminder that God's the only one who can do whatever he wants. You know, there's a saying that we like to tell our young people: you can be anything you want. You can do anything you want. That's not true. That's really ridiculous. Like, you can't do anything you want. Only God can do anything he wants. The rest of us have limited abilities, and we can't just do anything we want. That's the way it is. You can't. So I don't think it's really all that healthy to tell a kid something like that. I mean, maybe in some situations, but the kid knows, especially as a child, there's a ton of stuff I want to do I can't do, that my parents won't let me do, that my teachers and the adults won't let me do. And, you know, especially imagine like a young child going through puberty, especially a girl, and all the problems that she's having to face. Well, she would say, I want to, you know, not have to deal with this. Well, too bad, so sad, you know. And that's the reality in life is, no, you can't do anything you want. You have to do a whole lot of stuff you don't want. Okay? Now, that doesn't mean that you should, you know, have a fake view, I guess, of the possibilities, because in essence, a hero is a man who always does what he can, because nobody can do what they can't. But there are a lot of people who believe that they can't do things when in reality they can totally do them. And ultimately, you just have to go for it, I guess, you know, and just trust God to help you. And that's really the only way you're going to get anything done, is just to go out there and say, I don't know if I can do this today. I don't know if I'm going to succeed today. I may fail horribly, but what I got, I'm giving it. And I'm going to do my best and trust the Lord for the rest. That's my slogan. Not you can do anything. God can do anything, but I'm going to give God what I got and let him have the rest. Okay? So, I hope this video made a little eensy amount of sense. Unless I come up with some reason to share one tomorrow, a video tomorrow, then Happy New Year! Goodbye.